My name is Marina Christian, and I am 42 years old. People in Seattle know me as a woman who built an empire from nothing. To the outside world, I am the embodiment of discipline, sharp instincts, and victory. But behind the glass walls of my high-rise office, behind the polished marble floors of my home, there are cracks. Cracks only I can see. That evening, I was preparing dinner. The smell of garlic and rosemary filled the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a towel, irritated by the interruption, but the sight on the other side of the door chilled me to the bone. A uniformed officer stood in the rain. His cap dripped water, his jaw tight. "Mrs. Christian," he said gently, "I'm afraid your husband was in a fatal car accident an hour ago." For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. My husband, Ethan? No, that was impossible. I felt the words leave my mouth before I even processed them. "You're mistaken. My husband is upstairs. He's asleep." The officer frowned, exchanging a look with the younger man standing by the patrol car. His hand hovered near the holster at his waist. "Ma'am, I understand this is difficult, but we have the report. His vehicle was found wrapped around a tree on Highway 18. The medical examiner has already—" "No," I snapped, gripping the edge of the doorframe. "He's upstairs. I'll show you." I led them through the hall, my pulse racing, my heels striking the wood floor like drumbeats. Each step carried the weight of disbelief, yet my mind was already racing, calculating, analyzing. Something was off. Ethan wasn't supposed to be gone. He wasn't supposed to leave me before I left him. The door to our bedroom was half open, the room inside shrouded in shadows. "See?" I called, pushing the door wider. "He's right there." The officers hesitated, their instincts whispering danger. The younger one's hand twitched toward his weapon. From the doorway, they could see the shape on the bed, broad shoulders under the covers, brown hair spread across the pillow. "He's right there," I insisted, my voice sharpening. "Sleeping. You've made a mistake." But something in their expression shifted. The older officer's voice dropped low, careful. "Ma'am, please step back." And in that moment, the memory came flooding. How I got here, why I could never believe anything was what it seemed. Years earlier, I had built Christian Industries out of ashes. When my father abandoned our family, I was 20, left with nothing but debts and a bitter taste of betrayal. While other young women dreamed of love, I learned to calculate interest rates, file incorporation papers, and squeeze every ounce of opportunity from scraps of failure. By 25, I owned 3 successful startups. By 30, I was worth $50 million. By 35, I married Ethan Neal, a charming man with kind eyes who seemed impressed by my success but not intimidated by it. For a time, I thought I'd finally found balance. We bought the mansion in Bellevue. We had our daughter, Casey. But empires don't build themselves. I worked 18-hour days, chasing acquisitions, crushing competitors. Ethan, meanwhile, grew softer, more distant. He'd been supportive once, but support curdled into resentment. Our marriage became a performance. Smiles at galas, polite dinners, anniversaries marked by appointments instead of passion. Still, I never thought he would betray me, until I noticed the signs. His sudden bursts of cheerfulness, the way his phone buzzed, and he angled the screen away from me. The black suit that seemed too carefully chosen for a simple dinner at home, and the way he touched me, hesitant, distracted, as if his mind was elsewhere. Casey, our 14-year-old daughter, still believed in us. She bounded into the kitchen one evening, all innocence and golden hair, asking if she could stay over at Melissa Connor's house. Melissa's father was a police officer, and Casey spoke about him with wide-eyed respect. My daughter still believed the world was safe, that her parents loved each other, that families held together no matter what. She didn't know that her father was already plotting to leave us both. The officers shifted uneasily in the doorway of my bedroom. One of them reached for his radio. The shape on the bed was motionless, too still. My skin prickled. But beneath the dread, a darker certainty settled into me. Ethan had chosen his path, and I had already started preparing for war. Hours before that knock at the door, as I set down my wine glass in my study, I had already dialed my brother Gerald. We hadn't spoken in months, not since he criticized me for choosing business over family, but he answered anyway. "I need you to look into something," I said without preamble. Always blunt, Gerald sighed. "Straight to business. What is it?" "My husband and Wesley Stratton." A silence stretched, weighted and heavy. Marina, are you sure you want to go down that road?" I swirled the amber liquid in my glass, the ice clinking like distant thunder. Just do it. That was the moment my fate shifted. The knock on the door, the officers with their tragic news, Ethan's supposed accident, it was all connected. I knew it in my bones. They thought they could play me, but what they didn't understand is that I built my empire on one unshakable truth. Information is power. 3 days later, my brother Gerald arrived at my home. He didn't call first. He never did when the news was bad. I found him in my study, sitting in the leather chair opposite my desk, a manila folder resting in his lap like a weapon. "You're not going to like this," he said, his voice heavy with regret. I didn't flinch. My pulse didn't even quicken. Years of boardroom battles had trained me well. "Then show me." Gerald slid the folder across my desk. My fingers brushed the edge before I pulled it closer. Inside were photographs, grainy but unmistakable. Ethan, my husband of 16 years, and Wesley Stratton. Wesley, 6 feet tall, disarmingly charming, the man I'd once handpicked as a business partner because of his brilliance and charisma. The man I'd given 40% of Christian Industries to expand our empire. The photos showed them together at a hotel, kissing in Wesley's car, entering an apartment I didn't recognize late at night. The timestamps told the rest of the story. 8 months. 8 months of betrayal played out in blurry frames. My grip tightened on the photographs until my knuckles whitened. I forced myself to breathe evenly, but inside, rage coiled like a serpent. "There's more," Gerald said. He opened another envelope. Receipts, surveillance notes, Ethan meeting with a man named Tommy Travis. I scanned Gerald's notes. False documents, new identities, financial transfers. "They're planning to disappear together," Gerald said softly. "Wesley's been liquidating assets, moving them into cryptocurrency. Ethan's been photographing documents from your office, insurance policies, contracts, offshore accounts, everything worth stealing." I leaned back in my chair, my nails tapping a slow rhythm against the wood. "Everything," I repeated. My voice was calm, too calm. Gerald's eyes searched mine. "Marina, maybe this isn't what it looks like. Maybe Ethan's confused. Maybe—" "Don't insult me," I cut in. "I see exactly what it is." Silence thickened between us. He shifted uneasily. "So what now? You can divorce him. Cut Wesley out of the business. Protect Casey before she gets caught in the crossfire." I laughed. The sound startled even me. Cold, sharp, bitter. "Divorce?" I stood, crossing the room to the safe embedded in the wall. I unlocked it, pulled out several files. My insurance policies, my business contracts, my offshore account records. They'd been moved. Not enough for anyone ordinary to notice, but I'm not ordinary. I slammed the files down on the desk. "He's already inside my empire, Gerald. Between Wesley's partnership share and what Ethan's feeding him, they could strip me bare." My brother hesitated. "Then what are you thinking?" I poured myself a drink, the amber liquid catching the light. My reflection in the glass looked like someone else, someone harder. "I'm thinking they've made a fatal mistake. Marina, they think I'm just another wealthy woman they can manipulate, rob, discard. They don't see me. Not the girl abandoned at 20 who swore she'd never be powerless again. Not the woman who built an empire on ashes." I took a slow sip, letting the burn steady me. "They declared war, Gerald." His voice was low. "And in war?" I set the glass down, my gaze locking on the photographs of Ethan's lips pressed against Wesley's. My husband, my partner, my betrayers. "In war," I said, my voice like steel, "the only acceptable outcome is total victory." Over the next few nights, I barely slept. Not because of grief. Grief requires love, and that had already died years ago. No, I lay awake cataloging details, replaying every conversation, every dinner where Ethan excused himself to check on work, every glance at his phone he thought I hadn't noticed. Casey still bounded into my room with teenage chatter about school, friends, her plans for the weekend. Her innocence was a shield I refused to let them pierce. She didn't see me watching Ethan across the dinner table, studying his tells the way I once studied the stock market. He thought he was clever. He thought I was blind. But I saw everything. 2 days later, Gerald returned with another piece of the puzzle. "They're planning to stage a death," he said. My chest tightened. "Whose?" "Ethan's. He'll fake a fatal accident. With the insurance payout, Wesley will slowly move your assets offshore while you're too devastated to notice. By the time the world realizes, they'll be in a country with no extradition treaty. The audacity made me smile, a dangerous smile. They think they can kill my husband on paper and rob me blind in reality. Gerald's voice was tense. This is bigger than you realize. They've looped in Ivan Graham, your accountant. He's been helping Wesley hide assets. It's elegant in its simplicity. Ethan disappears, you grieve, Wesley transfers everything, and when the dust clears, they live comfortably together. I closed the folder and stood. My reflection stared back at me from the window, Seattle's skyline shimmering behind it. To anyone else, I was a powerful businesswoman standing in her fortress, but I knew the truth. Fortresses could be breached from within. They think they're predators, I murmured, but they've forgotten one thing. What's that? Gerald asked. I turned back to him, my lips curving into something between a smile and a threat. I don't just survive betrayal. I leaned across the desk, tapping the photographs with one manicured finger. I obliterate it. The morning after Gerald handed me the final folder, I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were rimmed red from lack of sleep, but they gleamed with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't heartbreak, it was war, and I intended to win. My first move was subtle. A call placed to an old acquaintance, Melissa Connor, a former military police officer who now worked as a private security consultant. She was small, blonde, and disarmingly innocent looking, which made her perfect for what I had in mind. We met in a quiet cafe downtown. She arrived in jeans and a leather jacket, but her posture screamed discipline. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. What's the job? I slid a sealed envelope across the table. I need someone who can convincingly play dead. Her brow arched. That's an unusual request, Mrs. Christian. I smiled faintly. I'll pay $50,000 for one day's work. Her eyes narrowed, assessing. I'm listening. So I told her, not the whole truth, but enough. My husband is planning to fake his death in order to steal millions. I want to turn the tables. You'll be the body in the staged accident. The medical examiner owes me a favor. He'll confirm the death. Melissa tapped the envelope against her palm. And the real husband? He'll be elsewhere. My voice didn't waver, watching his perfect plan collapse. She studied me for a long moment before nodding. Fine, but I want the payment in cash, and I want it up front. Done, I said. Meanwhile, the house itself needed adjustments. My mansion in Bellevue already had a state-of-the-art security system, but I needed more. I brought in a technician under the guise of routine upgrades and paid him double to ensure I could control the surveillance feeds, what recorded, what didn't, and when. In the basement, workers built what appeared to be a wine cellar expansion. Only Gerald and I knew the truth. Behind the false wall was a chamber, soundproof, climate-controlled, fitted with a small bathroom, kitchenette, and a bed. Comfortable enough to keep someone alive for weeks, but utterly inescapable. When I inspected it for the first time, the steel door clanged shut behind me. The silence was absolute, pressing against my skin like a second layer. I ran my hand over the walls, smooth, impenetrable. Perfect. Ethan, meanwhile, had no idea. He walked through our home smiling more often, humming as he scrolled through his phone. He thought he was clever, hiding his texts with Wesley. He thought he was in control. He wasn't. I caught him that evening in the kitchen, dressed too perfectly for a quiet dinner. A black suit, cologne sharper than usual. His lips brushed my cheek with a touch that felt rehearsed. You look beautiful, I told him softly. My tone was warm, but inside I cataloged every detail, the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes avoided mine. Thank you, he murmured. How was your day? Productive. Wesley mentioned an issue with the Henderson contract. Are you familiar with that client? For the briefest second, his gaze faltered. No. Should I be? Just curious, I replied, studying him. You seem to know more about my business lately than you used to. His phone buzzed. He silenced it quickly, shoving it into his pocket. Casey bounded in then, her laughter shattering the tension. Mom, can I sleep over at Melissa Connor's this weekend? She asked, her blonde hair bouncing as she moved. Melissa Connor. My mind filed the irony away. My daughter wanted to stay at the very house of the woman who would soon play her father's corpse. We'll see, I said, ruffling her hair. Her innocence felt like both a blessing and a knife. She had no idea how close her family was to shattering. Later, when Ethan excused himself to take a call, I followed quietly, stopping just out of sight. His voice was low, urgent. This Friday, he whispered. Yes. Tommy has everything arranged. I crashed the car, you handle the scene. By the time anyone questions the body, we'll be gone. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in. He sounded almost giddy. My husband was planning his own death, my betrayal, my ruin. But he didn't realize that Tommy Travis, the middleman, the man arranging false identities, was already mine. I'd intercepted him days ago, offering double what Wesley was paying. Tommy had switched sides without hesitation. Now he worked for me. Friday morning arrived gray and damp, the sky heavy with rain. Ethan kissed my cheek before leaving, his lips cold, his voice steady. "I'll see you tonight," he said. His last lie. I watched him walk out the door, briefcase in hand, eyes bright with anticipation of his escape. And in that moment, I whispered under my breath, "Not tonight. Not ever." By late afternoon, the rain had turned into a steady curtain, streaking across my office windows. I waited with my phone face up on the desk. At exactly 4 p.m., it buzzed. Tommy's voice came through, calm and efficient. "It's done. Your husband's car is wrapped around a tree on Highway 18. A pause. Then the real truth. "Don't worry, he never touched the steering wheel. He's in the back of my van, unconscious." I let out a slow breath. "Deliver him to the house. You know where." By the time the police would arrive at the crash scene, Melissa Connor would already be there, her body staged in the driver's seat, face obscured, blood smeared convincingly. The medical examiner, an old acquaintance who owed me a favor, would confirm the body was Ethan Neal, and the world would believe my husband was dead. That evening, I set the dining room table myself. Candles, wine glasses, the smell of roasted lamb filling the house. It was our anniversary, after all. The irony tasted as sharp as the wine on my tongue. Then came the knock. I opened the door to find Officer Bruce Jackson, his uniform crisp despite the rain. Behind him stood a younger officer, face lined with sympathy. "Mrs. Christian," Jackson began, "I'm afraid we have some very difficult news. Your husband was in a fatal car accident an hour ago." I let my face crumble, my hand gripping the doorframe. No, that's impossible." My voice cracked perfectly. "He's upstairs asleep. He had a headache. He went to lie down." Jackson's eyes softened, but doubt flickered behind them. "Ma'am, I know this is hard to process, but we found his vehicle. The medical examiner confirmed—" "You're wrong," I cut in, desperation pouring into my tone. "He's here. I'll show you." I led them up the staircase, each step heavy with rehearsed panic. The door to our bedroom was slightly ajar. From the hallway, they could see the outline of a man under the covers, brown hair spilling across the pillow. "There," I said, my voice thick with relief. "You see, he's right there. He's just sleeping." But Jackson's instincts were sharp. He froze, his hand hovering near his weapon. "Ma'am, step back." The younger officer followed, gun hand twitching. They had been trained for scenes where something felt wrong. Jackson approached the bed slowly. He reached out, tugged at the blanket, then recoiled. His expression hardened, his voice clipped. "Mrs. Christian, step away." On the bed lay not Ethan Neal, but a mannequin, life-sized, dressed in his clothes, wearing his watch, a wig styled exactly like his hair. The skin was eerily lifelike, but cold, waxy. The younger officer swore under his breath. Jackson drew his weapon. "Where is your husband?" I staggered back, shaking my head wildly. "What are you talking about? He was here. He was right here." My voice rose in a pitch of believable hysteria. Inside, I felt the opposite, utter calm. This was the moment I had prepared for. My performance had to be flawless. "He was sleeping when I came downstairs," I insisted. "Someone must have taken him. Please, you have to find him." Jackson's partner exchanged a glance, their skepticism palpable, but all they saw was a grieving wife unraveling. 30 feet below their feet, in the soundproof chamber I'd built, Ethan began to stir. His head pounded. His mouth was dry. He opened his eyes to find himself in a strange room, cream walls, soft carpet, a small kitchenette, even a bathroom. It looked almost comfortable, almost. But there were no windows, and the door was steel. On the wall, a large monitor flickered to life. He blinked hard, focusing, until he realized what he was seeing. Me, standing in our bedroom, surrounded by police, gesturing wildly at the mannequin in our bed. My voice carried through hidden speakers. "He was right here. He's gone." Ethan's blood ran cold. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't Wesley's plan anymore. It was mine. The officers escorted me back downstairs, their suspicion tightening around me like a noose. Jackson's voice was firm, controlled. "Mrs. Christian, we need you to come with us to the station. We have questions." Tears streaked my cheeks. Perfect, rehearsed tears. "Please, just find him. He's all I have." They believed I was breaking. They didn't know I was building. As they guided me away, I glanced at the security camera in the corner of the hall. For the briefest second, I let my mask slip, just enough for the lens to catch it. A smile, cold, predatory. And in the basement, watching from the monitor, Ethan saw it too. His stomach twisted as realization crashed down. His perfect scheme was gone, and now he was trapped in mine. Ethan woke slowly, like a man clawing his way out of black water. His head throbbed, his throat raw. For a few moments, he thought he was in a hotel room. Cream walls, soft carpet, even a mini fridge humming faintly. But then he saw the door. Reinforced steel, bolted, no windows. Panic surged. He stumbled to the door, pounding with both fists until they ached. "Hello? Somebody! Let me out!" A crackle of static answered him. Then my voice, smooth, measured, impossible to mistake. "Good morning, darling." Ethan froze. His chest heaved as he looked up at the monitor, flickering to life. The screen showed me, his wife, standing in our living room, surrounded by police officers. My shoulders hunched, my voice trembling as I told them my husband had vanished. But it wasn't grief Ethan saw, it was performance. "What have you done?" he shouted, his voice hoarse. "I've given you exactly what you wanted," I replied evenly, my voice echoing through hidden speakers. "You wanted to disappear, to start over. Consider this your fresh start." His fist slammed against the steel door. "Marina, please, let me out." "I'm afraid that isn't possible," I said. "According to the world, Ethan Neal died in a car accident this afternoon. There's even a body to prove it. Well, close enough for the initial investigation." On the monitor, he watched as Wesley Stratton entered the living room, his face carefully painted with grief. He embraced me at the door, his voice hushed, consoling. "I'm so sorry," Wesley said. "If there's anything you need." Ethan staggered backward, his stomach twisting. His lover, the man he risked everything for, was upstairs, hugging his wife, offering condolences for his death. "You see," I said through the intercom, my tone almost gentle, "the same man you gave up 16 years of marriage for is here, playing the grieving friend. He's good. I'll give him that. Almost believable." Ethan's eyes burned. "Don't do this. What about Casey? She's our daughter. She needs me." For the first time, my voice hardened, all warmth stripped away. "No. Casey needs stability. She needs love. She doesn't need a father who fakes his own death and robs her future." Tears welled in his eyes. "Please, just let me see her." "She believes you're dead," I said coldly. "She's being told her father died instantly in a car crash. She'll grieve, and she'll heal. But she will never know the truth about what you are." Ethan pressed his forehead to the cold steel door. His shoulders shook. "You can't keep me here. This is kidnapping. It's illegal." I cut him off with a low laugh. "Illegal? Ethan, you were about to stage your own death, commit insurance fraud, empty my accounts, and vanish with my business partner. You wrote your own sentence long before I stepped in. The law will only see you as a thief who died tragically. And me?" The camera caught my face as I turned slightly toward it. My eyes glittered, and for the first time, I let him see the truth beneath the mask. "I'm the widow." Hours passed. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands, as the monitor played scene after scene from upstairs. Neighbors stopping by to offer condolences. Business associates sending flowers. Even my brother Gerald arriving, his face heavy with sympathy as he stood beside me. And then Casey, our daughter, appeared on the screen, calling from her friend's house, sobbing as I told her the news over the phone. Ethan crumbled, his palms pressed against the monitor as if he could reach through the glass. "Casey, baby," his voice cracked. But all she heard was me, assuring her that her father had loved her, that his last words had been about how proud he was of her. In the basement, Ethan screamed until his throat was raw. No one heard him. No one but me. Later, when the last visitor left and the house was quiet, I spoke to him again. My voice was soft, almost intimate. "You thought you could steal my life, Ethan. Steal my empire. Steal my daughter's inheritance. But you underestimated me. You always did." He pressed his palms to the steel, whispering brokenly, "Marina, please, don't do this. I love you. I was confused." "Confused?" I let out a bitter laugh. You weren't confused in that hotel bed with Wesley. You weren't confused when you stole documents from my safe. No, Ethan. You were never confused. You were greedy. On the monitor, Wesley leaned close to me, murmuring something about funeral arrangements. His hand brushed my shoulder. I let him, just long enough for Ethan to see. Do you see him? I asked. The man you risked everything for? He thinks you're gone. He thinks your plan worked perfectly. He's already slipping into your role, pretending to be the loyal friend. Ethan's eyes filled with fury and despair. He'll come for me. Wesley won't leave me. I cut him off, my voice ablade. Look closer. On screen, Wesley's gaze flickered toward me, lingering with something almost possessive. He wasn't planning to rescue Ethan. He was planning to replace him. Face it, I whispered. You're already forgotten. Ethan slid down the wall until he sat on the floor, his body shaking. The truth was crushing him, and I wanted him to feel every ounce of it. 3 days passed. 3 long days in which Ethan lived inside a waking nightmare. Every hour, the monitor flickered to life with scenes from upstairs, while the intercom delivered my voice like a scalpel, slicing deeper into his illusions. He had food, water, a bed, but no freedom. Only the knowledge that the world believed he was dead. Meanwhile, Wesley Stratton was unraveling. From my study, I monitored his every move, his encrypted messages, his late-night calls, the nervous way he checked his phone every 5 minutes. Ethan was supposed to have contacted him by now, using their little code, the one they thought so clever. But silence was all Wesley received. He sat in his sleek downtown office, staring at his phone like it might conjure Ethan from the grave. His tie hung loose, his hair unkempt. He was fraying. Why hasn't he called? Wesley muttered, pacing across his office. He should have reached the safe house by now. That was my moment. Ivan Graham, my accountant for 6 years, was next in my crosshairs. He had been siphoning funds quietly for Wesley, thinking I'd never notice. But I noticed everything. So I sent in Agent Stephanie Hogan, not a real federal agent, but one of my hired players, dressed sharp in a dark suit with an authoritative tone that left no room for doubt. She confronted Ivan in his office, a folder of fabricated evidence in her hands. Mr. Graham, she said firmly, we've uncovered a trail of financial crimes tied to Christian industries, offshore transfers, cryptocurrency accounts, money laundering. You're implicated. Ivan's face drained of color. That's not possible. Agent Hogan slid the folder closer. We have proof. Unless you want to take the fall, you'll cooperate. Tell us who else is involved. Within an hour, Ivan cracked. He named Wesley. He confessed to helping him move funds. His panic poured through the hidden mic I'd planted. I listened from my office, sipping my wine. The web was tightening. Down in the basement, Ethan watched the same feed on his monitor. He saw Ivan trembling, spilling everything. His voice shook with disbelief. You framed him. I answered smoothly through the intercom. No, Ethan. I revealed him. Ivan was stealing. Wesley was plotting. I simply accelerated the timeline. Ethan slammed his fist against the wall. This is madness. They'll figure out Hogan isn't real. By the time they do, I cut in, Ivan will have already implicated Wesley. The damage will be done. That evening, Wesley's phone lit up with Ivan's frantic call. They know everything, Wes. The feds have evidence on the accounts, the transfers. I think someone tipped them off. Wesley's face blanched. Calm down. Say nothing. I'll handle it. But his voice was trembling. He wasn't calm at all. Ethan leaned toward the monitor, his voice breaking. He'll come for me now. He'll have to. He won't leave me here. Won't he? I asked quietly. We both watched as Wesley ended the call and immediately dialed another number. Not Tommy Travis, not Ethan. A new contact, a fixer, someone who specialized in disappearances. New identity, Wesley hissed into the phone. Cash, documents, everything. I need to vanish, now. Ethan's face crumpled. His hand reached for the screen as if he could stop the betrayal from unfolding. No, he wouldn't. I let my words drip slowly, cruelly deliberate. Look at him, Ethan. The man you gave up your family for. The man you risked everything for. He isn't trying to find you. He isn't worrying about your safety. He's only worried about himself. Ethan's voice cracked. You're lying. Am I? I whispered. Watch his hands. See how he keeps checking his phone, waiting for a message you'll never send. He's not panicking because you're gone. He's panicking because he knows he's alone. On screen, Wesley slammed his phone down, pacing like a caged animal. His face was twisted with fear and rage. He didn't whisper Ethan's name once. And that was the moment Ethan broke. His knees buckled, his forehead pressed against the floor. His voice came out a hoarse whisper. "He's abandoning me." I let the silence linger before answering. My voice was soft, almost kind. "He already has." 1 week after Ethan's supposed death, Wesley Stratton made his fatal mistake. Desperation is a dangerous thing. It strips people bare, reveals who they really are. And Wesley, once so composed, so charming, was unraveling faster than I had anticipated. That morning, he sat in his high-rise apartment, blinds drawn, phone clutched in his hand. Ivan's betrayal gnawed at him. The phantom federal agents had cornered him, and now every move he made reeked of panic. He accessed the hidden accounts, millions he had siphoned away from Christian industries. He thought no one was watching. But I was. Every keystroke, every transfer, every desperate move. My system recorded it all. The moment he pushed $2.3 million into an offshore account, the trap snapped shut. From the basement, Ethan watched in disbelief as the monitor flickered to a live feed. Police cars surrounded Wesley's building. But this time, it wasn't my hired actors. It was the real Seattle Police Department. Officer Bruce Jackson himself led the charge, battering through Wesley's door. "Wesley Stratton," Jackson barked, "you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft." Handcuffs clicked around Wesley's wrists. He shouted, wild-eyed, "This is insane! I haven't done anything wrong." But the evidence was overwhelming. Documents, accounts, testimonies, meticulously constructed, handed to the authorities by me. In his basement prison, Ethan staggered backward, horror etched into his face. "What? What have you done?" I answered through the intercom, my voice calm, almost serene. "What needed to be done? Your partner's greed just gave me everything I required. No jury will ever doubt it. He's guilty. He'll rot for decades." Ethan shook his head violently, his fists trembling. "No, no. He was supposed to come back for me. He promised." "Did he?" I cut in smoothly. "Or did you just need to believe he would?" But the cruelest twist was still to come. As Wesley was dragged away in handcuffs, the camera panned across the crowd of onlookers gathered outside his apartment. And there he was, Gerald, my brother. Not shocked, not horrified, smiling, phone in hand, taking photos. Ethan's voice broke into a whisper. "Gerald, he was part of this?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Gerald's been my eyes and ears for months. Every detail of your affair, every suspicious transfer, every movement Wesley made, he brought it all to me." Ethan pressed his hands to his head, as if he could physically block the truth from entering. You planned everything." "Of course I did," I said softly. "You and Wesley thought you could strip me of everything I built. Instead, I stripped him of his freedom. And you—" The camera feed shifted again. Upstairs, Casey had returned home at last, rushing into my arms. Her sobs shook her small frame as she buried her face in my shoulder. "Dad," she choked, "I still can't believe he's really gone." I stroked her hair, whispering words of comfort. "I know, sweetheart. But we'll get through this together. He loved you more than anything in the world." Down below, Ethan collapsed to his knees, guttural sounds tearing from his throat. "No, Casey, don't tell her that. Don't let her believe." But I silenced him with a single merciless line. "She believes her father died instantly, that he never suffered. She believes he loved her, and that, Ethan, is the greatest mercy you'll ever get from me." Hours later, when the house was quiet again, I finally spoke directly to him. My voice was cold, controlled. "You wanted a new life? You can have it, but not the one you imagined. Here's your choice, Ethan. You can stay here, disappear forever, and let the world believe you're dead. Or you can resurface. But if you do, you destroy Casey's future. Her inheritance freezes, her innocence shatters, and she learns the truth, that her father was a thief who faked his own death." Ethan lifted his face toward the camera, his eyes hollow, tears cutting lines down his cheeks. "Please, just let me see her. Once. Please." I let silence stretch before answering. My tone was ice. "No, she mourns you now, and that grief is cleaner, kinder than the truth." He crumpled against the wall, sobbing like a child. And I watched, impassive, because in that moment I knew I had broken him completely. 2 weeks after Ethan Neal's supposed death, he made his choice. He asked to see me, not through the monitor, not through the intercom, but face to face. I agreed. Not out of mercy, but because I wanted to see the ruin in his eyes. I carried a chair into the basement chamber, placing it carefully across from him. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and fear. Ethan sat hunched on the bed, thinner, paler, his once perfect posture broken. When he lifted his head, his eyes were bloodshot. He looked older, smaller. "You look terrible," I observed coldly, settling into the chair. His lips twisted into a bitter half-smile. 2 weeks in a prison you designed will do that. Despite everything, he noticed me, how I had changed. Sharper, leaner, every trace of softness burned away. Revenge agreed with me. He leaned forward, his voice cracking. "Why, Marina? Why this elaborate scheme? Why not just divorce me, expose Wesley, move on with your life?" I met his gaze without flinching. "Because divorce would have given you half of everything I built. Because exposing Wesley without you would have made him a martyr. Because moving on would have meant you won, and I don't lose." His throat worked as he swallowed. "So this is about winning?" "No," I corrected softly. "This is about justice. You and Wesley thought you could destroy my life and walk away rich. Instead, he's in federal prison, Ivan's in witness protection, and you're here, choosing between death and exile." Ethan's hands trembled in his lap. "And Casey? Don't you care what this is doing to her?" For the first time, something flickered in my chest, a tightly controlled ache, but I kept my voice even. Casey is better off believing her father died instantly than knowing he was a criminal who betrayed her. She'll inherit everything now. She'll be raised by a mother who actually loves her, and she'll never have to learn the truth about you. Tears filled his eyes. I wasn't abandoning her. The plan was to steal $50 million and disappear with Wesley, I snapped. Don't insult me by pretending she was ever part of your plan. She was an afterthought. His silence was admission. At last he whispered, I choose exile, but I have conditions. My brows arched. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. I don't care. I want updates on Casey, photos, reports, proof she's thriving, and promise me she'll never know the truth about me. I studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. She believes you died instantly, that you didn't suffer, that your last words were about how proud you were of her. That's the memory she'll keep. Tears streamed down his face. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said coldly. Your new identity comes with rules. You'll live in a small town in Montana under the name Daniel Harkins. You'll work as a bookkeeper for a family-owned business. You'll drive a used car. You'll never contact anyone from your old life. Never search for Casey. Never return to Seattle. His voice cracked. And if I break those rules? I leaned in, my eyes glittering. Then the world will learn Ethan Neal wasn't killed in an accident. He faked his death as part of Wesley's embezzlement scheme. Casey's inheritance will vanish, and you'll rot in federal prison until the day you die. Try me, Ethan. See if I hesitate. He shuddered, burying his face in his hands. He knew I wouldn't hesitate. 3 days later, Gerald drove him through the Montana countryside. A pickup truck, a dusty 2-lane road, silence heavy between them. As they neared the small town where he'd begin his new life, Gerald finally spoke. You know she still loves you, in her own way. Ethan scoffed bitterly. Funny way of showing it. Marina doesn't forgive, Gerald said simply. She never has. Not since our father left. But she also doesn't hate without cause. What you did to Casey, it broke something in her that can't be fixed. I made a mistake, Ethan whispered. Gerald shook his head. Mistakes are forgetting anniversaries, leaving the milk out. What you did was betrayal, carefully planned for months. There's a difference. The truck stopped in front of a modest apartment above a bookstore. Gerald handed him an envelope. Your new identity. Keys. Enough cash to start. The town thinks you're a widower from California. As far as the world is concerned, Ethan Neal is buried in Seattle. Ethan stared down at the envelope. His hands shook. Will I ever see you again? Gerald started the engine. No. As he drove away, leaving Ethan alone on that dusty street, the truth sank in. Ethan Neal was dead, and Daniel Harkins would live in his place. Back in Seattle, I thrived. Casey healed slowly, though the grief still surfaced in her eyes when she spoke of her father. I reassured her, held her, guided her through each milestone. The business flourished. With Wesley in prison and Ivan erased from my world, Christian Industries rose higher than ever. My empire was secure. And every night I slept soundly, knowing the ones who betrayed me had been destroyed completely. Years later, at Casey's high school graduation, the crowd roared as she crossed the stage. I clapped until my hands stung, pride swelling in my chest. But then, for the briefest moment, my eyes caught on a figure in the back row. A man in a baseball cap, sunglasses, his posture familiar even under the disguise. Ethan. For a split second, our gazes met, across the sea of cheering families, across years of betrayal and vengeance. He didn't smile, he didn't cry, he only mouthed 2 words. Thank you. And then he was gone. I never saw him again. But I didn't need to, because my victory was complete, my justice flawless. Ethan Neal was dead, and Marina Christian had won.